Good evening, students. Welcome to our Thursday night bedtime story. Tonight's story is The Salamander Room by Ann Mazer. And when you look this one up on AR, it should be slightly easier than most of the books that I've presented on these read alouds. So this one might be more accessible to you if previous books have been a little bit more challenging to pass the quizzes. Brian found a salamander in the woods. It was a little orange salamander that crawled through the dried leaves of the forest floor. The salamander was warm and cozy in the boy's hand. "Come live with me," Brian said. He took the salamander home. "Where will he sleep?" his mother asked. "I will make him a salamander bed to sleep in. I will cover him with leaves that are fresh and green, and bring moss that looks like little stars to be a pillow for his head. I will bring crickets to sing him to sleep, and bullfrogs to tell him goodnight stories." "And when he wakes up, where will he play?" "I will carpet my room with shiny wet leaves and water so that he can slide around and play. I will bring tree stumps into my room so he can climb up their bark and sun himself on top. And I will bring boulders that he can creep over." "He will miss his friends in the forest." "I will bring him friends to play with." "They will be hungry. How will you feed them?" "I will bring insects to live in my room, and every day I will catch some and feed the salamanders. And I will make little pools of water on top of the boulders so they can drink whenever they are thirsty." "The insects will multiply, and soon there will be bugs and insects everywhere." "I will find birds to eat the extra bugs and insects, and the bullfrogs will eat them too." "Where will the birds and bullfrogs live?" "I will bring trees for the birds to roost in and make ponds for the frogs." "Birds need to fly." "We can lift off the ceiling. They will sail out in the sky, but they will come back to my room when it is time for dinner, because they will know that that is where the biggest, juiciest insects are." "But the trees, how will they grow?" "The rain will come through the open roof and the sun too. And vines will creep up the walls of my room and ferns will grow under my bed. There will be big white mushrooms and moss like little stars growing around the tree stumps that the salamander climbs on." "And you, where will you sleep?" "I will sleep on a bed under the stars, with the moon shining through the green leaves of the trees. Owls will hoot and crickets will sing, and next to me on the boulder with its head resting on soft moss, the salamander will sleep." So two interesting things happen in this story, two design or little details that the author has included. One, the illustrations tell as much of the story as the words do. As we see Brian's room metamorphosizing as he adds more and more to it, we find that by the end, it's no longer the salamander that's sleeping in Brian's room, it's Brian sleeping in the salamander's room, which is the forest by the end of the story. So it's important in this story to pay attention to the illustrations. The other thing that I think is interesting is the story is mostly told through dialogue. It's the back and forth between the boy and his mother, and it's the actual dialogue that's telling the story instead of a narrator telling the story. So that's another interesting thing, especially as you're writing your Shumash stories and you're trying to include dialogue. Dialogue is important for telling a story. So tonight's journal, when I was your age, I really wanted to work in a zoo. Actually, some of you know I did get to do that when I was a young adult. I got to work for a while at the Santa Barbara Zoo. And the most exciting thing about, I think, working in a zoo is planning a habitat or an exhibit, which I did not get to do, but it's something that I always wanted to do as a child. So for your journal, I'd like you to think of your most favorite wild animal. And if you were to plan an exhibit for that animal, draw how you would design it. How would you make the best possible home or habitat for that animal within a zoo? And when you're done, think about whether or not the animal would be better off in your habitat or better off in the wild. You may have different opinions depending on what animal you chose. All right, students, I will see you soon. Have a good night.